What's up, everyone? Mr. NoobTube Gamer. Today we're playing Battlefield 2 in 2022. We're going to check out the game 17 years later and see if it still holds up. Well, as far as the player count goes, you can see there's still a lot of active servers still going in 2022, which is amazing. You see you got these two servers in China that are very populated. Got a lot of European servers, not too many North American ones, which I find kind of interesting. But as an American, I'm able to connect to the European servers just fine with minimal lag. I mean, there is some noticeable lag here and there, but it's not unplayable by any means. It's still very much playable, at least me being in the East Coast. If you live in the West Coast or anywhere else in the world, if you live in like Africa or South America, your mileage may vary quite a bit. But at least for me, I'm able to connect just fine and not have too bad of an experience with the connection. Like the other old Battlefield games that we covered, like 1942 and Vietnam, Battlefield 2 servers were actually shut down by EA a number of years ago. I think it was back in 2014 when the GameSpy server shut down. Back then, EA rented their servers from GameSpy. But when GameSpy ceased to exist, EA decided not to keep the games running because they figured it would cost too much to migrate the servers over to official EA ones, and they didn't think it would be worth it financially because these are really old games that do have a very active community, but at the end of the day, EA wants you to play their new garbage like Battlefield 2042, so, you know, that's going really well. Yeah, Battlefield 2042 is probably the worst game in the entire history of Battlefield. Thankfully, all the old games are still online, including Battlefield 2, which, even though it was officially shut down by EA, there are community servers that are running and a custom client that you can install called BF2 Hub in order to get the game back online. So a lot of people are looking at the older games and seeing how they play, and they want to go and play those games instead of the new shit. Just keep in mind, if you're one of those people that's curious about the old Battlefield games and maybe want to play one of those, but let's say like your first Battlefield was Battlefield 3 or Battlefield 4, these are games that are a decade old, respectively, yet have still aged very well. In 2022, Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 still feel like modern gaming experiences. They really were ahead of their time. But when you go back to Battlefield 2, it feels quite different from those games. Very different, actually. And you would think, oh, this game came out in 2005. It's only 5 or 6 years before Battlefield 3. But it's actually the same amount of time between Battlefield 4 and Battlefield 5 was about 5 years. And Battlefield 4 holds up to Battlefield 5 very well, between the gameplay and even the graphics. But going from Battlefield 2 to Battlefield 3 was a huge leap in technology. I mean, all the things that we as modern Battlefield fans take for granted, like destructible environments, smooth gunplay, beautiful graphics, that you don't really have that in Battlefield 2. Now, granted, when the game came out in 2005, it was very cutting edge. Like, for 2005, Battlefield 2 was incredible. It was so advanced for its time that it could simply not run on the consoles that were out back then. It was a PC exclusive. The PS2 and original Xbox could not handle it. But technology was just advancing at such a rapid pace back then, the mid to late 2000s, that it became outdated pretty quickly. This isn't me trying to bash on the game or even try to tell you that it's not worth playing in 2022. I'm just trying to say, for those of you that are used to the more modern Battlefield experiences, you definitely need to come into Battlefield 2 with a different set of expectations as you would with a Battlefield 3 or Battlefield 4 or Battlefield 5. It's still a Battlefield game at its core. It still feels like Battlefield, especially with the large-scale maps, large-scale warfare, and all the vehicles that you can use, all the different weapons, but it definitely lacks a lot of key features that the newer games have, like destructible environments, which I mentioned earlier. That was definitely the biggest adjustment for me personally playing Battlefield 2, was not having that, because that just I just see that as such a fundamental core feature of Battlefield, but it wasn't always that way. You didn't always have those destructible environments. So yeah, that'll definitely be a huge adjustment for you, especially if you never played Battlefield 2 before. You also don't have any weapon customization like you do in Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, where you can just go crazy with the customization, all these different attachments that you can put on. You don't have that in Battlefield 2 either. And also the gunplay can feel pretty janky compared to the newer games like BF3 and BF4. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So yeah, I mean, like I said, this is not me trying to knock on BF2. But the reality is, it's not going to be for everybody. It's for me. I enjoy it quite a bit, even though I didn't grow up with Battlefield 2. My first Battlefield game was actually Bad Company 2 in 2010. I didn't play Battlefield 2 for the first time until last year, actually, when I made my Battlefield 2 in 2021 video. And while it did take me a little bit to get used to the gameplay of Battlefield 2, I eventually found myself having a really good time. Had a lot of fun playing this game. Can't say that I put as much time into Battlefield 2 last year as I did playing games like Battlefield 3 and 4 and Bad Company 2, but when I'm in the mood for Battlefield but get tired playing those games and want something that feels a little bit different while still being Battlefield, I always play Battlefield 2 and 1942. I'd say the fact that you can easily download this game for free and not pay anything, and that there is still a very active community in 2022, there's no reason not to at least check it out. It might not be for everyone, but I think at least some of you will enjoy it a lot if you give it a real chance. It is definitely one of the greatest Battlefield games of all time. Map design is top quality. A lot of the maps you'll recognize, like Karkand, which was remastered into Battlefield 3. A lot of great maps in BF2. But also be prepared to get your ass kicked, because a lot of the people that are still playing this game have been playing for over 15 years, so they know what the fuck they're doing. They know all the maps inside and out, all the weapons and how they work. Like, you're gonna have some really stiff competition, especially if you're a new player, but I still think it's a worthwhile experience in 2022 for any Battlefield fan, old or new.